Welcome back, viewers. Those of you who have just joined us, we have been discussing the EU referendum with my special guest, Mr. Paul Scully, MP. So let's start again, Paul. You know, this EU referendum campaign, there have been loads of criticism about to both sides. You are misleading the public by putting different figures out of how much money we are spending and how much we are getting back, and the bottle bus and everything you have labeled for. So what do you say about that? Where are you going wrong? Where are you misleading public?
I tell you what, part of the problem is there are very few facts in this debate. It sounds strange, which is even more difficult to then make your mind up. There's loads and loads of assumptions because people are talking about what may happen in 2030, 2065, I've even heard, when I'll be long gone from this world. The one thing that from our side that is often debated about whether we're getting it right or not is the figure of £350 million a week, whereas we actually, our gross figure that we pay to the EU is £350 million a week. We then get back some of that because Mrs. Thatcher negotiated a rebate. So actually that comes down, that figure comes down to about 250 million, something like that. Still a lot of money. But then the Remain campaign will still talk about the fact that we actually get money back from the EU in terms of they spend money on our behalf. And that will bring it back down to about £120 million a week. Still a lot of money. Although what I would say about that is the money that the EU are spending for us in our own country, well, let's keep that money and let's us spend it. We can choose where we want to spend that money.
My question was, is £350 million a week we are sending to EU, is it a right claim or?
No, because the rebate, we actually don't end up sending that rebate. So it's about closer to £250 million.
So you haven't taken the rebate into account?
What they do though, that rebate is, when you speak to the voting people, the rebate is not a guarantee. It's something we have at the moment, but it's not a guarantee. So the net figure is about 250 million quid. But it's still, as I say, a lot of money.
So how much will be a year we are sending to EU?
Well, it's about £10 billion a year, something like that. So that's our cost of our membership for the EU. And this is why people get confused.
So
because
according to my figure, the money directly comes to the commercial bodies, money directly comes to the universities. After taking everything into consideration, it's about £5 billion a year.
But you're talking about money that has gone to the EU and then has come back to the UK in terms of spending. Well, that's like you taking a whole lot of money out of my wallet and then giving me some money back and say, there you go, now you can go and buy your dinner for it. I'm going to buy you dinner. That's thank you very much for buying me dinner. I can buy my own dinner. You know, I'd rather keep our money. Yeah, exactly. It's our money that we're spending on the universities and things like that. So we can do that. But because we have this EU structure, they're the only game in town. They're the ones that are spending our money. But if we weren't part of that, that's not to say we're not going to spend money on the regions, on universities and these sort of things. It's just up to us how we prioritise that.
Thank you, Paul. For argument's sake, okay, say about we settle down for 8 million a year, just argument's sake. But here it comes. If we are to become a free trade partner with the EU, there will be some fees to pay, like Norway and Switzerland paying. And they are more or less paying the same amount of money than we are paying now, being a member of EU. So if it is about saving money, we won't be saving any money, are we?
This is the difference between a free trade and single market. If we want to join the single market, then we will have to pay some of the money into the EU, as Norway does. But what you do, Switzerland, for example, it picks and chooses the money the things that it imports and exports in and out of the EU. It has the regulations on those companies. Anything it trades with the rest of the world and anything it keeps within itself, it doesn't have to abide by the regulations. So it saves quite a lot of money that way. The UK at the moment not only has to pay all of that money in, it not only gets outvoted on a regular basis because of the Eurozone countries have an inbuilt majority, but it also, the 95% of companies that don't even trade outside the country still have to abide by the regulations and the directives and the laws that come out of Brussels. And many Bangladeshis will be restaurant owners, there'll be suppliers, there'll be small business people and things like that. They still have regulations, despite maybe only supplying businesses around London, around Leicester, around Birmingham, these sort of things. Never mind Brussels and Madrid and Bucharest and these sort of cities around the EU. But they still have those regulations to abide for, and that's what we can free them from.
Okay, Paul, just the previous point, also I want to ask this question. I'm sure that my viewers wants to know, if we are to exit from EU, what will happen to the EU citizens already are in the UK?
Well, it's my belief that Britain very, very rarely, if ever, talks about laws retrospectively, so looking back at what's happened with the people that are here at the moment. So I see no reason why they should go anywhere, that they should be able to get indefinite leave to remain. And that's something I was reading about the people like Priti Patel and Chris Grayling and the people and Boris Johnson that are and Michael Gove that are fronting up the Vote Leave campaign have said pretty well much the same thing. All of this, I mean, you know, I'm a backbench MP. Some of those guys that I was talking about, they're ministers and what have you, but they are not the government. They're not the decision makers. So a lot of these things about our free trade agreement, about what happens to immigration, about what happens to decision making, will be subject to the government when they come in.
What I'm saying is, even if we were to get out of EU, cancelling our membership from EU, the people from other countries in this country, they will be still where they are now in the UK.
Yeah, I'm not sitting here proposing that we start throwing people out of the country or anything like that. I think what we need to do is we need to look to the future.
So what I'm saying is, we will be controlling our future immigration.
Yeah.
This problem won't go to back to us.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
You know, it's about building a fairer, manageable immigration system for the future. It's not about looking back. It's very much about looking forward to the opportunities ahead of us.
So just solving the future out.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. This debate about EU, from the both sides, we are witnessing loads of argument regarding what we will do to our country, what you won't do to our country. But if I leave those political two-sided sides and look at the professionals like IFS, OBR, Office of Budget Responsibility, Institute of Physical Studies, business leaders, university professor, British Chamber of Commerce, they are majority people strongly supporting to stay in the EU because it will be a very bad move for our economy. What would you say to them?
I think if you look at the some of the people that have been talking the country down and have been saying that we can't manage without the EU, a lot of those people, the organisations should I say, were the same organisations that said we should join the euro, otherwise we're going to have a really bad economic situation. They were wrong then, they're wrong now. You then have the establishment effectively circling their wagons, and this is really building up into very much an establishment view versus the people. You know, it's the individuals and people who've got the confidence in their country, but you've got the government and people around them, to the extent when they're talking about the fact that we might have war and a huge recession, all these sort of things. Well, look, what Prime Minister would call a referendum, and David Cameron, I'm a big fan of his, I disagree with him on this point, but I'm a big fan of his. He is not the kind of man that would call a referendum when there's a 50% chance of a war and a big recession and an economic downturn. You just wouldn't do that. That wouldn't be the responsible thing to do. So the government are working on a plan B. I haven't got a clue what that plan B is. I'd like to know. So I have far more confidence. But these are professional
bodies. They are the economic expert.
But the problem is, if you look at, as I say, a lot of those organisations were the same people that were predicting doom and gloom when we were working out whether we should join the euro or not. A lot of them actually did not call the 2008 downturn in the economy. A lot of them failed to predict the way that the Greece was going in. Greece should never have been allowed to join the euro, but the EU bent the rules to allow them in. But they had such a different economy to the rest of Europe. They should never have been allowed to join, but they stayed silent to that point. So they've been wrong in the past several times, and that's why I believe that they're wrong now.
You know, this country Turkey is proposing to coming to the EU zone, to become the EU member. Do you think if you are in the EU after this referendum, our problem will go from bad to worse in terms of immigration?
I think Turkey is an interesting point because we are, the Prime Minister is saying that, look, don't worry, Turkey's not going to join. But that's all very well to say. We are spending as a country £2 billion of taxpayers' money is going from the UK to help fund Turkey, Albania, Serbia, Montenegro and the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, the pre-accession, what they have called pre-accession, changes that they have to make in order to meet the rules to join the EU. So either they're going to be joining, or why on earth are we spending this money? So we need to work that out. If Turkey does join, they have a population of 77 million people. And the freedom of movement of people there, we've seen what happened last year with the migration crisis. I was just in Greece yesterday looking at the refugee camps there. Now we are really good as a country on dealing with refugees. We've had a big history, long history of dealing with refugees. Greece, just a year ago, had 5,000 people a day coming through across the sea through Turkey into Greece. It's only now they've got this deal that it's sort of like slowed it down. So Turkey, as I say, it will be a lot of pressure on the EU if it did join as a member.
They have to be ready to join the EU. Haven't their human right and all rest of it has to be right to join.
For sure, it's not going to happen tomorrow by any stretch of the imagination. They've got a long way to go, and actually everything that you see, the way that they're progressing at the moment, they seem to be moving in totally the wrong direction in terms of human rights, in terms of changes and the sort of things that Prime Minister Erdogan is talking about. So it's not going to happen immediately, but it's not good enough for the Prime Minister to say, don't worry about it because France will veto it. Prime Minister only a few months ago was in support of Turkey joining the EU. You've got to be upfront with people. You've got to explain to people, look, either I don't want Turkey to join anymore and I'm not supporting it, or yes, they're going to join and I'm going to be upfront about how we're going to manage immigration and other bits and bobs if they do.
The recession we fall in, last recession in England, do you think that was because of, I know this is our bankers to blame for the recession, but we would have come out a lot sooner than we are now, or little bit of recovering the recession only because of Eurozone problem and the subsidy we have to make to other EU countries?
Yes, I mean we did come out of it a lot quicker than other European countries. We actually have the fastest growing economy in the Western world and Western developed world. We've created more jobs in the UK over the last 5 years than the rest of the Eurozone put together. So we've done a fantastic job. But you're absolutely right to say that we haven't come out of it as quickly as we might have done, because the one thing we need to do, of course, is pay to narrow our deficit. We're spending more money than we're bringing in taxes. And part of the reason that we weren't able to do that in the last Parliament, in the last government, was because we were having to continue to bail out countries like Greece, and the Eurozone crisis did have a big effect on that
Paul,
as well.
Thank you. So if you can now summarize your argument and tell my viewers why you want them to vote no to EU.
I think it's really important.
Thank you.
I think it's really important, Saeed, to actually look at the whole package. Trade is really important, but as I say, we are the 5th largest economy in the world. We're one of the largest manufacturers. We're the 4th largest military power. We have a UN Security Council seat, and we are in the right time zone and speak the right language for business. That's fantastic. But it's also about building up a controlled, managed, fair immigration system for everybody, a level playing field for everybody, but also about bringing decision making back to the UK and looking out and being a confident, optimistic country. And that's why I believe that small business people, individuals, as well as big businesses should vote to leave and take control on June the 23rd.
Thank you, Paul. Viewers, you have heard the argument from both Leave campaign. If I can summarize those in Bengali for you, which will say the EU Leave campaign are saying is ইউএতে থাকা আমাদের জন্য অত্যন্ত অর্থনৈতিক ক্ষতিকর, বিকজ বছরে আমাদের 10 বিলিয়ন পাউন্ড মতো ক্ষতি হয়। আমরা ইমিগ্রেশন কন্ট্রোল করতে পারতেছি না। ওপেন ডোর পলিসির কারণে অতিরিক্ত জনসংখ্যার চাপে আমাদের এনএইচএস, আমাদের হাউজিং খাত চাপের মুখে, আমাদের রেস্টুরেন্ট সেক্টর বিপর্যয়ের মুখে। আমাদের নিজস্ব পার্লামেন্টের ক্ষমতা সীমিত ইউএতে থাকার কারণে। Now viewers, It is over to you now. It is very important that you go out and vote on Thursday the 23rd of June, because this election is far more important than any other election. This election will decide our country's future. So whatever decision you make, please go out and vote on the 23rd. I thank you for watching. Good night. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
for joining us.
Thank you, Sai.
Thank you.